You hear it all the time, right? Web3, AI, next-gen gaming, they're all supposed to completely change our world. But here's the thing, they're all hitting the same invisible wall, a massive shortage of raw computing power. So today, we're going to take a look at a project called AETHIR that's proposing a pretty radical solution to this power crisis.
So what's the big holdup? Well, at its core, the issue is just insane demand. Training a new AI model, running a big decentralized app, or rendering a massive virtual world, all of that takes an enormous amount of computational muscle. We're talking specifically about high-end GPUs, graphics processing units, and right now there just aren't enough of them to go around.
To really get what the solution looks like, we first have to break down the problem. So let's start with what we can call Web3's power problem. Okay, this whole problem really breaks down into four main hurdles. First, you've got GPU scarcity, which just drives prices through the roof. Second, the supply that does exist is mostly controlled by a handful of centralized giants, creating these huge choke points. Third, the networks we do have are all fragmented, they don't really talk to each other. And the end result of all that, the cost to run these powerful next-gen applications becomes just way too expensive for most developers.
So, facing this challenge, a whole new model is starting to emerge. And this is exactly where AETHIR comes into the picture, with its vision for a completely decentralized GPU marketplace.
AETHIR is part of this growing movement called DePIN. It stands for Decentralized Physical Infrastructure Network. Now, it sounds super technical, but the core idea is actually simple and really powerful. You use blockchain tech to organize and monetize real-world physical hardware, like GPUs, from literally all over the globe.
Honestly, the best way to think about it is like an Airbnb for computer power. I mean, if you've got a powerful GPU just sitting there not doing anything, a DePIN network like AETHIR lets you rent out that spare capacity to someone who really needs it, say an AI developer or a gaming studio. It creates this peer-to-peer marketplace for pure computation.
So, what does this marketplace actually look like in practice? Well, it's a global network where you can rent GPU power for really specific tasks, like training AI or rendering 3D models. It's also built to work across major blockchains like Ethereum, Arbitrum, and Solana. And crucially, it uses token incentives to actually reward the people who are providing all that hardware.
Now, I know what you're thinking. That all sounds great in theory, but a lot of these crypto projects are just a roadmap and a vague promise, right? Well, AETHIR claims to have real, verifiable activity going on right now. So let's look at the numbers they're putting forward as proof.
First up, just the physical scale of it all. AETHIR is reporting over 435,000 GPUs connected to its network. That is a lot of hardware. Okay, so they have the hardware, but is anyone actually using it? Well, they're pointing to over 1.6 million on-chain transactions, which suggests people are actively using the network. And maybe this is the most important one, adoption. More than 25 projects are apparently building on top of AETHIR, because let's be honest, an infrastructure is totally useless if nobody builds on it. This number suggests the ecosystem is actually starting to grow. And to help fuel that growth, there's some serious money involved. A $100 million ecosystem fund has been set up just to attract more developers. All of this, when you put it together, points to some real momentum. Not just in network activity, but in serious financial backing, too. But hey, no analysis is complete without a healthy dose of skepticism, right? AETHIR isn't operating in a vacuum, and it's facing some very real challenges. Let's pivot and talk about the competition and the core risks involved here. So in their main business, decentralized compute, they're up against some tough established players like Render Network and Akash. And for making all the different chains talk to each other, they're actually relying on outside tech. This means they have to prove they're not just another competitor, but that they're a significantly better one. And then there are the big structural risks to think about. First, the technical challenge of managing a global network of GPUs is just immense. Security is another huge question mark that really needs more public auditing. But you know, the biggest risk of all? Adoption. The entire model completely falls apart if developers don't actually choose to build on AETHIR. The token's value isn't based on hype. It's tied directly to real-world demand. If that demand never shows up, the token's utility just disappears. This brings us to probably the biggest, most important question you should ask of any DPIN project. Do you actually need a blockchain to do this?
And this is the core trade-off, right in it? On one hand, the blockchain gives you this transparent economy with programmable incentives. That's huge. But on the other hand, it brings in complexity, transaction fees, and potential delays. AETHIR is making a bet that for its users, the upsides of decentralization and transparency will be worth those costs. So, what's the verdict?
Is AETHIR a real glimpse into the future of the internet, or is it just another project caught up in the hype cycle?
Well, instead of giving you a simple yes or no, here are 3 signals you can watch for yourself to make your own call. First, track the real usage. Don't just look at transaction counts, look at the number of actual GPU tasks getting completed. Second, watch developer adoption. Are major AI or Web3 apps actually integrating AETHIR into their products? And third, follow the money. What's the real dollar volume being paid for compute services on the network?
Because really, it all boils down to this. Slapping the buzzwords AI and blockchain together is easy marketing, but building a platform that provides so much real value that developers are willing to pay for it, that is much, much harder. And that's the real test here.
So in the end, we're left with this massive question. Is creating a global token-powered marketplace for computing a necessary revolution, or is it maybe an overly complex solution to a problem that today's tech giants are actually better equipped to solve? The answer to that is probably going to define the next era of the internet.